When a loyal man is betrayed, something deep within him shifts. It's not just that he's hurt. It's that the very foundation upon which he built his relationships, his trust, his faith in the people he cherished has been shaken. He's not the same after that. He can't be. Because loyalty, real loyalty, isn't some fleeting sentiment. It's not just a word to be thrown around lightly. It's a commitment, a principle, a way of life. And when that commitment is met with deception, with indifference, with betrayal, he doesn't simply shrug it off and carry on like nothing happened. No, he withdraws, he learns, and he changes. At first, the pain might make him feel like love itself is a risk he can no longer afford to take. He pulls back, not just from the person who hurt him, but from the world. He starts to question everything. Was he too naive, too open, too trusting? He replays the moments in his mind, looking for the signs he missed, the red flags he ignored. And this process, this deep, unsettling reflection, hardens him in ways even he doesn't expect. The warmth that once defined him, the generosity of his spirit, doesn't vanish entirely, but it becomes guarded, controlled. He doesn't give freely anymore. He measures his steps, his words, his affections. But here's the crucial thing. He does not become bitter. No, a truly loyal man does not allow betrayal to turn him into something he despises. He does not let the pain of being wounded turn him into a man who wounds others. Instead, he transforms, he elevates. He doesn't abandon love, but he refines his understanding of it. See, before, he may have loved blindly, giving without question, without limit, assuming that others carried the same integrity, the same depth of devotion that he did. But now, he sees love differently. It is no longer something he simply hands out to anyone who claims to care. It becomes something earned, proven, not just spoken, but demonstrated over time. And this shift doesn't mean he stops loving. It means he loves with wisdom. The next time he loves, it won't be the reckless love of someone who assumes the best in everyone. It will be the measured love of a man who has known deception and refuses to let it define him. He will watch patiently, observing actions rather than promises. He will listen not just to words, but to the spaces between them, the inconsistencies, the patterns, the moments where someone's true nature reveals itself. And when he chooses to give his heart again, it will be to someone who has earned that privilege, someone who understands that his love is not a game, not a convenience, but a responsibility. Because here's the truth. A loyal man is not afraid to love again, but he will never love the same way twice. He is no longer the man who loved without caution, without discernment. He is stronger now, wiser, more discerning. And if he does find someone worthy, someone who respects the depth of his loyalty rather than taking it for granted, he will give to them in ways most cannot even fathom. Because despite everything, despite the pain, the betrayal, the nights spent questioning his worth, he is still, at his core, a man who believes in love. And that is the real power of a loyal man. You cannot break him. You can wound him, you can shake his faith, you can make him question everything he once knew, but you cannot destroy him, because even in his pain he rebuilds. Even in his doubt he finds clarity, and even after betrayal he still has the courage to love again. But this time he loves not as a fool, but as a man who understands the true cost of giving his heart. So if you ever find yourself in the presence of a man like this, one who has been hurt but has risen above it, one who has learned the painful lessons of love but has not allowed them to harden him beyond recognition, understand what you are looking at. You are looking at a man who has walked through fire and emerged refined, not consumed. And if he chooses to love again, know this: it is no accident. It is no whim. It is a conscious decision, one he does not take lightly. And if you are given that privilege, do not squander it. Because a loyal man who has learned his worth will never again allow himself to be where he is not valued. When a loyal man is betrayed, something inside him fractures. He may not show it at first. He may carry on, keep his composure, and do what he has always done, endure. But the wound is there, deep beneath the surface, and it changes him. Because for a man like that, betrayal isn't just a moment of disappointment. It's a violation of everything he believed in, everything he stood for. It's a breaking of the unspoken contract that governed his relationships, one built on trust, on respect, on the unwavering commitment he was always willing to give. And when that contract is shattered, he cannot simply pretend it never happened. Forgiveness is a complicated thing for a man like this. He knows intellectually that holding on to resentment will only harm him. He understands that bitterness is a poison that eats away at the soul, that living with anger is no way to live at all. And so he wrestles with the idea of forgiveness, not because he is weak, but because he is principled. He doesn't want to become the kind of man who carries hatred in his heart. He doesn't want to be ruled by the pain of what was done to him. But at the same time, he cannot simply erase the betrayal as if it never occurred. See, forgiveness for him is not about pretending. It's not about blind reconciliation, about opening the door again to someone who has proven they cannot be trusted. No, forgiveness for a man like this is a private act, something he does not for the one who hurt him, but for himself. It is the choice to release the burden of resentment, to refuse to let another person's betrayal dictate his future. But make no mistake, while he may forgive, he will never forget. Because forgetting would mean disregarding the lesson. It would mean turning a blind eye to the truth that was revealed to him. And he is not a man who ignores the truth. If someone has shown him that they are capable of deception, of disloyalty, of treating him as disposable, he takes that knowledge and he integrates it. He does not deceive himself into believing they will change simply because he wishes they would. He does not hand them the same access to his heart, the same trust he once so freely gave. No, he adjusts. He learns. And this is where people misunderstand him. They mistake his refusal to forget as a sign of stubbornness, of coldness. They think that because he does not return to the way things were, he must still be holding on to anger. But that's not it at all. It's not anger that guides him, it's wisdom. He has simply seen too much, felt too much, to go back to a state of naive trust. He will no longer be the man who assumes the best in those who have shown him otherwise. And that change is not cruelty, it is self-respect. Now, that doesn't mean he becomes incapable of love or incapable of trust. It means that from this point forward, his trust is something that must be earned, not simply given. He will not allow himself to be placed in the same vulnerable position again. He will not allow himself to be manipulated by apologies that carry no action, by words that hold no weight. And those who truly care, those who are worthy of his presence, will understand this. They will see that his caution is not a barrier to love, but a refinement of it. Because if he ever lets someone back in, it will not be because they begged for forgiveness or because they made promises of change. It will be because they proved through consistent action that they were deserving of another chance. And if they cannot do that, if they believe that words alone should be enough, then they were never truly sorry. They only regretted losing the benefits of his loyalty. This is the quiet transformation of a loyal man who has been hurt. He does not seek revenge. He does not lash out. He does not become consumed by rage, but he does change. He becomes sharper, wiser, more discerning. He carries the lessons with him not as weights that drag him down, but as armor that protects him from ever being wounded in the same way again. And if someone believes that they can betray him and simply be welcomed back with open arms, they will find that the man they once knew is gone. When a loyal man is hurt, something fundamental inside him shifts. He is not the kind of man who walks into relationships lightly. He is not careless with his words, his time, or his devotion. When he chooses to stand by someone, to invest in them, to build with them, it is not a half measure. It is not a fleeting decision. It is a reflection of who he is at his core. His loyalty is an extension of his values, a commitment not only to the people in his life, but to the principles that guide him. And when that loyalty is met with betrayal, indifference, or deceit, he does not just walk away unchanged. No, he learns, he adapts, and most importantly, he elevates his standards. At first, it might look like he is retreating. He pulls back, distances himself, re-examines the way he has been operating. It's not because he no longer believes in connection, but because he refuses to be reckless with his heart. He recognizes now that not everyone deserves access to the depths of his loyalty. Not everyone has the integrity to handle it with care. And so he begins to demand more, not in a way that is arrogant or entitled, but in a way that is precise, intentional. He no longer entertains relationships built on potential rather than reality. He will not invest in the hope that someone will change, that they will one day rise to meet him where he stands. No, he observes what is in front of him, not what he wishes it could be. If someone's actions are inconsistent, if their words do not align with their behavior, if they treat his presence as an option rather than a privilege, he will not argue. He will not beg for respect. He will simply walk away, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, because a man who has been hurt and has truly learned from it does not lower his standards to avoid loneliness. He understands that solitude is far superior to being in the company of those who do not value him. And this shift doesn't just apply to his relationships, it extends into every part of his life. His friendships, his career, his goals, everything is held to a higher standard now. He is done tolerating mediocrity, both in himself and in others. He refuses to surround himself with people who drain him, who do not challenge him to be better, who do not match his level of dedication and integrity. He will no longer be the man who stays in situations simply because he is comfortable. No, he seeks growth, purpose, alignment. This is what people often misunderstand about him. They think he has become too guarded, too selective, too difficult to please. But what they fail to see is that this transformation is not about becoming unapproachable. It is about becoming intentional. It is about refusing to settle for relationships that require him to shrink, to explain, to tolerate behavior that is beneath the man he is striving to become. He is not asking for perfection, but he is demanding reciprocity. If he gives loyalty, it must be met with loyalty. If he gives effort, it must be met with effort. Anything less is simply not worth his time. And the people who truly respect him, who understand his worth, will not see his standards as obstacles. They will see them as a reflection of his self-respect. They will not ask him to lower them. They will rise to meet them. Because a loyal man who has been hurt does not stop believing in love, in friendship, in the power of deep, meaningful connection. He simply refuses to waste his time on anything that does not align with the values he holds. So if you find yourself in the presence of such a man, understand what you are looking at. You are looking at a man who has been through fire and has come out refined. A man who no longer entertains what does not serve him, what does not uplift him, what does not honor the depth of his character. And if you are unwilling or unable to meet him at the level he now demands, do not expect him to bend himself to accommodate you. Because a man like this, once awakened to his own worth, will never again tolerate anything less than he deserves. Pain is a powerful teacher. It strips away illusion, forces confrontation with reality, and demands transformation. When a loyal man is hurt, he does not have the luxury of remaining the same. The betrayal, the disappointment, it changes him. But the question is never whether he will change. The question is how. He could let the pain consume him, let bitterness take root, let resentment harden his heart. He could allow himself to spiral into cynicism, to declare that loyalty is pointless, that trust is a fool's game. Many do. Many take the easy road of destruction, of tearing down rather than building up. But a man who truly understands himself, who refuses to let pain define him, takes a different path. He takes the fire and reforges himself in it. This kind of man does not waste time chasing revenge, does not wallow in self-pity, does not let the betrayal of another determine the course of his life. Instead, he asks himself a simple but difficult question: what now? He takes the energy of his pain and redirects it toward growth. He looks inward, identifies the weaknesses that made him vulnerable, sharpens his mind, strengthens his discipline. He becomes someone who cannot be broken so easily again. He builds himself into something greater, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Because what is the alternative? To stay wounded? To carry the weight of betrayal like a permanent burden? No, that is not the way forward. That is a slow death. So he works. He works on his body, because he knows that strength is not just of the mind, but of the flesh. He works on his mind, because knowledge is armor and wisdom is the blade that cuts through deception. He works on his purpose, because he refuses to let pain be the most significant thing in his life. He channels his suffering into something meaningful, into his craft, his career, his vision of the future. He becomes sharper, more focused, more relentless in his pursuit of excellence. And through this process, something remarkable happens. He realizes that the betrayal, the pain, the disappointment, it did not break him. It shaped him. It carved away the illusions, refined his character, gave him clarity. He sees now that the hurt was not an ending, but a beginning. That it was never about what was taken from him, but about what he was forced to become. And so he moves forward, not bitter, not broken, but stronger. Not because it was easy, but because he refused to let his pain be wasted. Because in the end, that is the only real choice a man has: to let suffering define him or to use it as fuel. And the man who chooses the latter, the man who refuses to be reduced by what he has endured, becomes something unstoppable. When a loyal man is hurt, his first instinct may be to retreat, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because he understands something most people do not. Solitude is not a punishment. It is a place of reckoning, of rebuilding, of quiet transformation. It is where he separates himself from the noise, from the betrayals, from the distractions that once clouded his judgment. In that stillness, he confronts his pain. He does not numb it with empty pleasures or run from it with mindless distractions. He faces it, he dissects it, he learns from it. And in that process, something incredible happens. The loneliness he once feared becomes a source of strength. He begins to understand that the peace found in solitude is far greater than the chaos of shallow connections. He sees that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. It is a choice, a decision to step back from anything that does not serve him, to reclaim his energy, to focus on what truly matters. He no longer seeks validation from the outside world. He no longer needs constant affirmation. He becomes self-sufficient, not just in his actions, but in his mind. This is where true growth begins. Because when a man is comfortable being alone, he is no longer controlled by the fear of losing people. He does not cling to relationships that drain him. He does not tolerate disrespect for the sake of companionship. He does not lower his standards to avoid solitude. He embraces it, knowing that within that space, he has the time and freedom to rebuild himself without compromise. And as he grows stronger, as he sharpens his mind, as he deepens his understanding of himself, something shifts. He stops searching. He stops chasing. He no longer feels the need to explain himself to those who do not value him. Instead, he waits, because a man who has found strength in solitude will only allow people into his life who bring genuine value, who respect the depth of his loyalty, who recognize that his presence is not an obligation, but a gift. This is what people misunderstand. They think his withdrawal is coldness. They assume his distance is bitterness. But in reality, it is the highest form of self-respect. He has simply learned that he would rather walk alone on the right path than lose himself trying to belong where he does not fit. And when he does return to the world, when he chooses to re-engage, he is not the same man who was hurt. He is not the same man who tolerated what he should have walked away from. He is stronger, clearer, and entirely unshaken by the things that once held power over him. Because a man who has embraced solitude, who has found strength in it, is a man who cannot be broken. When a loyal man is hurt, when his trust is shattered, when he is forced to face the reality that not everyone values loyalty the way he does, something inside him changes. He does not walk away unscathed. He does not simply move on as if nothing happened. He carries the weight of that experience, the lessons buried in the pain, the knowledge that what he once gave so freely must now be guarded. But here's what many people don't understand. He does not stop loving. He does not become incapable of connection. He does not resign himself to a life of bitterness or loneliness. No, he will love again, but it will not be the same before. He loved without hesitation. He trusted without question. He believed that loyalty was a bond strong enough to hold everything together. That if he gave his all, if he stood unwavering, if he was consistent, honest, and devoted, then surely that would be enough. But experience has shown him otherwise. He has seen that not everyone operates by the same code. That some people mistake kindness for weakness, mistake consistency for complacency, mistake devotion for something they are entitled to rather than something they must honor. And so when he loves again, it will be different. He will be slower, more discerning. He will no longer be swept away by mere words, by empty promises, by the intoxicating rush of early affection. He has learned that real love is not about grand declarations, but about consistency, about showing up day after day with integrity. And so he will watch, he will observe, he will take his time, because now he understands that loyalty is not something to be handed over without caution. It must be earned, proven, reciprocated. But this does not mean he will be cold. It does not mean he will be closed off or incapable of affection. In fact, when he does love again, his love will be deeper, more intentional, more refined. He will love with a quiet strength, with a wisdom that was not there before. He will not lose himself in another person, will not bend and break to fit into places he does not belong. Instead, he will stand firm in who he is, and he will expect the same from those he chooses to let into his life. And because he has learned, because he has grown, because he now understands the true value of what he brings to the table, he will not tolerate less than he deserves. He will not chase, he will not plead, he will not fight for a place in someone's life where he is not truly valued. Instead, he will give to those who see him clearly, who respect his presence, who understand that loyalty is not a burden but a gift. This is the transformation. This is the shift. He does not stop loving, he simply loves with his eyes open. And if he gives his heart again, it will be to someone who has shown, through actions rather than words, that they are worthy of it. Because a man like this does not fear love, he simply refuses to waste it. A loyal man is not invincible, but he is resilient. When he is hurt, he does not crumble, he evolves. He withdraws not out of weakness, but to reassess where his energy is best placed. He struggles with forgiveness, but he never forgets the lessons pain has taught him. He elevates his standards, refusing to settle for anything less than honesty, integrity, and reciprocity. He channels his pain into growth, using every wound as fuel to build something greater within himself. He finds strength in solitude, realizing that his worth is not defined by the company he keeps, but by the principles he upholds. And though he will love again, he will love differently. more cautiously, more intentionally, and only when it is truly deserved. This transformation is not about becoming cold or bitter. It is about becoming wise. It is about understanding that loyalty is a rare and precious thing, and that it should only be given where it is valued. A man like this does not seek revenge. He does not waste time proving his worth to those who never saw it. He simply moves forward, stronger, clearer, and entirely unwilling to betray himself for the sake of acceptance. Because in the end, the world does not break a loyal man, it refines him. And once he has seen the truth, once he has rebuilt himself, he will never again allow himself to be diminished.